Another week in the NBA is afoot, and with no Monday Night Football tonight, you got to get something to gamble on. And of course, the work begins, it always does, here on the Splash Play channel. We're going to dig in to compare my projections to one of the industry leaders out there, our friends over at Stokastic. We'll see who the top projected plays are, who the best value plays are, and there's going to be a lot of them, guys, because basically all of Denver got ruled out right before the show. We'll also go game by game, check it out where the leverage spots are, where the chalk is as well, based on Stokastic's data. We'll run a sim, which hopefully will be updated by the time we get there. If there is an update, I'll do a hand build. And by in this video, guys, you're going to know all the industry's must plays, as well as my splash plays for January 5th. Let's get into it. Shouts to the chat. Appreciate all the enthusiastic chats here, but glad to see you guys here. Again, a brand new week. Hope it was a good weekend for you guys, but of course, the work continues on, and boy, it is a lot of work some days, including today, where Denver, no Jamal Murray, no Nikola Jokic, obviously, no Joe Val, no Aaron Gordon, no Christian Brown, if those guys just return to rotation, no Tim Hardaway Jr., so that's something I had to try to sort out right before the show. Thankfully, I did get projections in that I feel good about minutes-wise, but it is a shorthanded Denver team at this point, about 9 guys in that rotation, many of whom that are in that expected rotation today, not normally playing. So that's going to be some stuff that we will talk about when we get there, but that's the big news item and the big pain point right before the show. But your top projected plays right now, your number one guy overall amidst all the games today is a guy that's not actually on our main slate, Denny Avdia. He's on the FanDuel main slate. So if you are on there, you'll get some, I'm sure. Avdia, Jalen Johnson, the two guys that are always popping up atop my list here when we do these videos. And that's the case again today. Avdia at 55.2 for me, Jalen Johnson at 55. But Avdia not on our main slate, so he doesn't matter. But if you are playing that late slate on DraftKings, he's going to be in basically every lineup, and he should be because he's very good, and Jeremy Grant and Drew Holiday remain out. Jalen Johnson, though, today, you get no Trae Young. You also get Atlanta in the same spot they were the other day, facing Toronto yet again. But Jalen Johnson, 10K salary when he is 10K or so, very much in play for me, especially when we have one of Trae Young, Porzingis out. And at this point, if Porzingis playing under 20 minutes a game, he's basically out every game as he recovers, doesn't recover from his illness situation, whatever's going on there. But Jalen Johnson here, again, the price tag still reasonable enough on a slate where we don't really have pay-up options. We don't have the Giannis's, we don't have the Jokic's, and we don't have the Wembys. We don't have any of those guys. This is where you go to on a slate like that. It's Jalen Johnson. So Fields at 38%. I am getting 57. I'm always above on Jalen Johnson by at least a little bit. It's going to be the case again today. Jaylen Brown went for 50 real life points the other day. The usage has been crazy high for him, as we talked about here on show. Basically for Jaylen Brown, $9,800 salary. Certainly do think that's a reasonable price tag for a guy that just went again for 50 real life points last time he played. Fields 21% ownership. I'm getting 29% for Jaylen Brown. The spot where Boston, their 124 implied total going against Chicago. It is a good spot for Boston. The overall game total could probably be a little bit higher, but Chicago at this point, getting Kobe White back in, still missing Josh Giddey, and maybe not the most competitive they are. That said, for Jaylen Brown here, nice projection over 50 fantasy points. One of 3 guys, the main slate that I would have over 50, the DK main slate, that is. So for Jaylen Brown here, Fields 21%. I'm getting 29. Just a guy that I also don't mind getting some of. Usually is a lower owned option today, not super low owned at that expected 21%. Cade Cunningham, you got no Jalen Duren today, no Tobias Harris. Besides that, we'll see what else happens with Detroit, but it seems like at this point, going to be Cade and the secondary Pistons still mostly available there besides Karis LeVert. But Cade really not getting a big rate uptick in court time without Jalen Duren. As a result, I have him at 50.4 fantasy points. Stokastic has him at 52.2. There definitely is more upside theoretically from having Jalen Duren out. But getting Paul Reed in, another guy is a really good fantasy contributor and does some stuff that Jalen Duren doesn't in some respects. And while rebounding at a similar clip and all of that, and you have Isaiah Stewart in, who's more productive than Tobias Harris. I think the net is that it's not great for Cade Cunningham in terms of that median projection, but in terms of the ceiling that he can have in a spot where you do have, a guy in Jalen Duren who's putting up, 30 points per 100 possessions off the court, and Tobias Harris, who is still, a person who does score some amount of points. It's not a great total going against New York. I think that's really one thing that's keeping him at, mostly in check here. But the Field's at 15% Cade. I'm getting 7. Don't think you want to be fully fading him or anything if you're putting in a bunch of lineups. And today, for what it's worth, if you're not familiar yet, DK, it's a $5 tournament today, 100K up top. So nice tournament structure for to bait all the people in, basically, with no NFL, I think is really what they're trying to do. But on the slate, you're going to be able to afford Cade more easily because of the Denver value opening up, because we have Paul Reed value on that team. So getting the Cade a little bit easier to do in stomach because you'll have the money to do it. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, about 4% for the field rounded up. I'm getting 4% as well. For Shea, getting 32 minutes. He just hasn't been a super elite fantasy producer when you have guys like Chet, like Jalen Williams, that team producing fairly well. Even, AJ Mitchell, still over 1 fantasy point per minute on the year. And I think a decent looking play on this slate. You have enough guys that are there putting up enough production for SGA that he often doesn't come up for me. And you also have the risk too that OKC does blow teams out, even though certainly they have been playing down lately, including losing to Phoenix just yesterday. But OKC in this spot, nearly, actually just a flat 125 point implied total for them, facing Charlotte, who is a 14.5 point dog. No, 15.5, sorry, 15.5 point dog on the road. It's not a good spot for SGA to necessarily trust that he'll get that fourth quarter run. But if he does, he gets closer to the ceiling. Still hard to love him at a 10-3 salary. Tyrese Maxey, 11% ownership. I'm getting him at 13. He's on the other side of this Denver not showing up today matchup. Do you think it should benefit Joel Embiid a little bit more to be going against Deron Holmes, not Dayron, Deron? I watched the game. He doesn't play a lot of minutes. They really jerk his minutes around, but it's not Dayron. It is Deron. So I've learned that, like as if he is the Ron, Deron Holmes. But going against him, going against Zeke Naji in the second unit, for Embiid, that should be cake. I think that's a better spot for Embiid. I did boost Embiid's rates a little bit to reflect that because I do want to try to get Embiid at least with the field today. But Tyrese Maxey, if Embiid doesn't go off in the spot where he really should, Maxey, another guy that can crush, massive total now facing Denver here with Philadelphia, a team that we don't really hold in a lot of esteem. Definitely the betting markets don't either. 14.5 point favorite in their game today. And for what it's worth, this game is also an 8:30 tip-off. So if we don't know Denver's starting lineups, you're going to have to go down to the wire, unfortunately, because it's the last game on the main slate. Unless you're playing FanDuel, then you have your late games, obviously. But Maxey, getting above the field, don't mind it here, really. Anybody can crush versus this Denver team that is not really an actual NBA team at this point. Kawhi Leonard, another late slate play, looks pretty good. Getting Zubac in does impact his rates pretty meaningfully, but Kawhi has gone off lately, largely in games without Zubac, but still, he'll probably carry some of that momentum forward. But he's on the main slate, so it doesn't really matter. Joel Embiid, again, boosted his rates a little bit. As a result, for the first time this year, I'm getting him higher than Stokastic's projection. I have Embiid at 46.5 today. Stokastic has him at 45.7. The big goal for me is just to make sure I'm getting some Embiid here. Fields projected to get 16%. I was getting 27 before the show. Things are going to move around because the Denver projections will change Stokastic's sim pretty meaningfully. But Joel Embiid in this spot, facing a Denver team where you are talking like legit not NBA caliber center play. You're also talking about a team that's probably not going to really show up today. I mean, these guys will try hard because, they're playing for any sort of viability sticking in the NBA. But they're not gonna be able to keep up with Embiid. Embiid will draw fouls on them relentlessly. The bullshit that he does will be tenfold against this team as opposed to playing Jokic. And Embiid won't duck this matchup as he has historically when he faces Denver because he doesn't like facing Jokic. Today, that's not gonna be the case. Joel Embiid will beat up on Denver and pretend that Jokic was there. Jalen Brunson, 9% ownership for me in my top 150, Fields at 11. Brunson, not really a priority play at this point with the Knicks, mostly at full strength. Still no Josh Hart. But you've got them now priced sort of where they should be for that situation. But Jalen Brunson, a 9K salary, 11% ownership, much like Cade, much like Tyrese Maxey. You can afford these guys a lot more easily because the value it's going to open up on the slate now. James Harden, another late slate play. Doesn't matter, but he projects well. Kevin Durant, no Alperen Şengün. Don't see enough of a rate uptick for Kevin Durant's time without Şengün, but theoretically, revenge spot here versus Phoenix. Also, shooting guard, small forward. The multi-position eligibility helps him out a little bit. I'm not there projection-wise for Kevin Durant, but him being easier to afford with Denver's value, I think makes him a guy that easy to get into lineups at 8,900. And certainly we see it happen enough times. You go a little bit cheaper than playing Cade, playing Jalen Johnson. Maybe you got a Durant with a Maxey, with a Brunson, maybe even one more of those guys with all the value you'll have. Certainly could make sense. Maxey over Cade. Cade apparently has an injury. We'll play through it. Yeah, he's probable, so we're not worried about that. I have Cade projected about 3 fantasy points higher, so I would say Cade's the better play, but certainly relative to salary, Maxey looks like a slightly better value. They're both fine. They're both kind of the same play to me. Neither projects too super well, but they're all pivots to Jalen Johnson's ownership, Jaylen Brown's ownership, whatever people chase there. All right, let's sort by value here. Before we do that, guys, we're probably going to hop over to NBA WoW to look at the Denver stuff a little more closely. Before we do that, guys, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Again, it really does go a long way, even though I have to ask every video. It gets tedious for me to ask, as sure as it does for you guys to hear it. But really, it is always a battle against the YouTube algorithm. And now that NFL season is over, you're going to be getting me still the same 5 days a week here, Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. But a lot more potential opportunity here for you guys to get some more action in with the NFL season dying down, more attention to go around for the NBA. So show some love, hit that like button, subscribe, and join along on the ride here, where if nothing else, I show up and do the work, and you do whatever you want that information, as I encourage you guys to do when you gamble your own money. Check out Stokastic too. Link down below if you want to check out all their options. Use the promo code SPLASH when you get over there. It gets you 15% off any package, weekly, monthly, cheap stuff, expensive stuff, all sport packages, stuff with the avatar as well. It's all 15% off the promo code SPLASH. So join down below, click that link, use the promo code SPLASH when you go over there. And last but not least, if you want to support the channel here and be a part of the live chat, like so many great guys here in the community are, join for $5 down below. You also get access to my Discord. Our guys are in there chatting ball all day, all weekend long, really, at this point. But also my projections, if you want to get those, or some of the stuff I show you here on screen. I recommend the Squirt Squad tier. For a lot of people out there, you get to see my matchup screen updated throughout the night. If you're an advanced player, you know to use CSVs and projections. My VIP tier, you also get my projections that I use myself every night, updated throughout the night as well. All right, we got value. So Jalen Pickett up top, and here's the why. So let's go to NBA Wowie. Again, very important part of the process. If you guys are newer to DFS, or I guess trying to really, figure out what good process looks like, a site like this, Add More Funds, NBA Wowie, very important to me. Fantasy Labs has a free one. I think there might be a few others out there. Play by Play Stats has one that it never works well for me, but I know some people use. I think it's PPP Stats. If you search that on Google, you'll find it. The point being, a tool like this shows you what players look like when various, other teammates are off the court. We're going to go a bigger sample size here because actually, just to show you guys as a thought experiment here. So Nikola Jokic, we have out. Jonas Valanciunas, we have out. So right away, the two centers being off the court, you're getting the sample size down really low. We generally want about 1,000 possessions. That's where the sample size gets stable. That's where things get more predictable moving forward. Obviously, you can make inferences off of the small sample size rates and all that, and that's what we're trying to do here. But you can see here, it's not a lot of possessions. But we take Jamal Murray off the court. Okay, it's going to get even smaller. We're now talking about 90 possessions. And these 90 possessions, Jalen Pickett, 0.9 fantasy points a minute. Julian Strawther, 0.8 fantasy points a minute. Hunter Tyson, 0.7. Zeke Naji, 0.8. Point being is that we should probably take a few more guys off, right? Because Aaron Gordon also out. Christian Brown out. And for what it's worth, when you have like a really small sample size, because it doesn't exist where like all these guys didn't play, you can just sort of grab like the key guys. So like, just what does it look like with Jokic off? What does it look like with Jokic and Murray off? I want to get Joe Val off too, because I do think his role is like pretty fantasy dominant, because it is sort of a bootleg version of Jokic's he's always been a good producer anyway, has Joe Val. But you can see here now with all these guys off the court that aren't playing today, it's only about 84 possessions, but Jalen Pickett, 0.96 fantasy points a minute. Day'Ron Holmes, 1 fantasy point per minute. Bruce Brown, 1.7. So we want to shrink that sample size for Bruce Brown if we can. Peyton Watson has only played 1 minute where all these guys have been off the court this year. So let's go back another season, right? We have a pretty similar construction with Denver last year. A lot of these guys overlap on the roster. Of course, now we want to take off Westbrook, because Westbrook is a stat producer. Michael Porter Jr., too, another guy who does get shots up. We probably want to get him off. And Cam Johnson, we've got to take him off before. Again, this is also a fun visualization of how many guys are not playing for Denver today that have been meaningful rotational guys in the last few years. So now you can see we have a pretty decent sample size of where we've been, where Hunter Tyson has played 390 minutes. Jalen Pickett's played 390. Strawther's played 280. Zeke Naji's played 280. With all these guys off the court, we're talking for Hunter Tyson, 0.95 fantasy points a minute. He is a lanky white guy, kind of looks like Christian Brown, but he rebounds. He runs pretty hard at the rim, creates some assists. He's a guy that I'm really intrigued by if he somehow starts, especially, but 3K minimum salary guy. Jalen Pickett, I think he's going to start and play mostly the minutes that Jamal Murray leaves behind. Jalen Pickett, about 390 possessions, 0.95 fantasy points a minute. Not great usage, but great assist rate at 11 assists per 100 possessions. Julian Strawther, only 0.72 fantasy points a minute. He's getting shots up. He's not really hitting them. Strawther, one of those guys that will probably get opportunity here. If he starts, you'll feel better about it. If he's coming off the bench, though, he's going to chuck. Zeke Najee is going to be your center who plays the minutes when Daron Holmes is not out there. Those guys did not share a minute last game for Denver. So one of them starts, probably Daron Holmes. The other one can take minutes away if Zeke Najee plays well as he did last game for Denver. But he's only averaged 0.7 fan sports minutes, so it hasn't been that great, unfortunately. Spencer Jones, not that great. I don't think Trey Alexander's available. He might not be on the team anymore. Anyway, whatever, doesn't matter. PJ Hall, not on the team anymore. Peyton Watson, 23% usage going back to last year, only 83 possessions. Peyton Watson should be our big usage winner. But the big thing that you're seeing here, and Bruce Brown still at that 1.7, that Giannis-like fantasy points per minute for Bruce Brown. The big point here is that there's no real precedent for what Denver's going to have today. Stokastic will make a really good median projection guess whenever they update their data. That's something to keep in mind. But I'm showing you this so you guys understand. It's hard to make guesswork here. The way that my projections work is because Jokic is missing, Murray's missing, Joe Val's missing, Aaron Gordon's missing, Brown's missing. All their stats just sort of get dispersed amongst everybody else relative to how much those guys produce per 100 possessions. So it also ties in the Vegas total. Obviously, the Vegas total for Denver has fallen a good amount. But, there's still a certain amount of points expected. So with that amount of points, a certain amount of stats occur for Denver each time. That's the way projections work. But it's really hard to make that guesswork. So for Jalen Pickett, and that ties us back together to our top value plays. For Jalen Pickett, I think he gets the big win here. He gets the Jamal Murray role. He also gains a lot of the assist upside that both Jokic and Murray leave behind. So Jalen Pickett, $3,800 salary. My projection's at 37.4. Stokastic is not updated yet, so that's why the projection is so far off. If I had to guess, I'll probably give him one closer to like 27, 28. These are the things where, I make my own data. I like to live and die by my own data. I think Jalen Pickett is your big winner here for Denver at 3,800 point guard, shooting guard. A guy has been in the rotation anyway, has previously started, a couple games recently as Denver's been going through these rotational issues. Last game he did not start, but now he's your main point guard because Curtis Jones, your other point guard, hasn't been in the rotation. Would say that Bruce Brown and Peyton Watson will shine today for the Nuggets, but the Nuggets are going to get blasted. Sure. Will any starters for Philly get blowout run? I don't know. I don't really care about that at this point. You have more than enough value. You don't need to worry about Philly blowout run. Who doesn't love a lanky white guy? That's true. I mean, look, I think Hunter Tyson's a really intriguing play, but we'll get to him in a minute. Paul Reed. So Paul Reed, no matter what, he's now properly projected. He started last game, yesterday for Detroit, played 30 minutes, going against Cleveland. Didn't have a lot of success in that spot. But Paul Reed's been a great fantasy producer. We've had him on stream before in a game where Isaiah Stewart, where Jalen Duren were both out. Paul Reed smashed in that spot. He's averaging 1.31 fantasy sports minute. He's kind of a Dayron Sharp type guy. Of course, you guys recall I really put my nuts on the line with that one last week. That's what you're getting today with Paul Reed. I do think the Denver value will probably knock down Paul Reed's ownership a little bit, but Denver value, mix it, match it around. Paul Reed with that. That's what is your value on the slate. It is, I think, these are the most fun kind of slates because these are guys you're getting for basically free. That should be putting up, worst case scenario, putting up 20, 25 fantasy points, but more likely putting up, 30, 35, I think, for Pickett and Reed. So Paul Reed right now, 97% expected ownership by Stokastic before all the Denver stuff got updated. I got him in 96% of my lineups, but really Jalen Pickett, Paul Reed, I think, borderline look like lock plays to me. $5 tournament could have so many dupes. Yeah, I mean, the larger field and the fact you're going to have concentrated chalk for sure. I would guess, though, the winner will still be, probably not duping more than 1 to 5 times. But if I had to guess, it'll be whatever value hits combined with switching around the pay-up options around it. I mean, that's NBA DFS in a nutshell, but especially a slate like this. Hunter Tyson. So Hunter Tyson, I'm going to have way over projected, I think, relative to Stokastic. But I gave Hunter Tyson and Julian Strawther 22 minutes playing off the bench here. Again, it's a 9-man rotation for Denver, so we just don't have enough bodies to allocate a lot of minutes around to. But Hunter Tyson, a guy who does contribute in every category. His per 100 possession numbers look actually surprisingly pretty strong. He puts up, number one, 11 3-point attempts per 100 possessions. He also gets 15 rebounds, which would be the most on the team, including Peyton Watson, per 100 possessions. So for Hunter Tyson, if he starts, wheels up, I think you play him like crazy. If he comes off the bench, I think you want to be a little more responsible with the ownership. Because he wasn't in the sim at all, I just couldn't figure out how to get him to pop up enough. Hunter Tyson, I would imagine, would be like a 33% play for me. Fields ownership probably will be, if he doesn't start, 10, 15, somewhere in that range. The minimum salary for Tyson and Strother. Strother, I got at 35%. It was a little bit easier to get him in Stokastic Sim, I think, as a shooting guard, small forward eligibility. But Strother, as you saw, he's not been a great producer with the various guys for the Nuggets off the court, but he will be out there getting opportunity. He's 3K minimum salary. He's shooting guard, small forward. Again, if he starts, you feel great about it. If he doesn't start, he's still in play. I got him in 35% of my lineups. But, he and Tyson, I'd favor Tyson as a play relative to the projections. But both guys, I think, going to come up a little bit, as everybody on Denver should. Dennis Jenkins, 50% ownership for the field. I got 0, I think, because of the way things moved around with Pickett and Strother. But Dennis Jenkins, another guy in the rotation for Detroit now, because of the fact that they are short a few bodies. He went nuts in the second quarter of last game for Detroit, put up like 23 real life points, ended up finishing with 27 in that game. But he'll play off the bench a little bit. He's also 3K minimum salary. So that's why he had 50% ownership on him, because a decent projection. He's been about a 0.94 fantasy point per minute guy this year. So Dennis Jenkins, if he's going to get minutes, he looks okay. The Denver value, though, I think will look a lot better now. So Dennis Jenkins, I don't think will hold up at 50% ownership, but he is another guy here. Detroit and Denver, the two DE teams, your top values are all pretty much going to come from there now because of the guys that they're missing. Bruce Brown fields at 11% or 12%. And I guess, again, this is before Denver ruling everybody out. I gave Bruce Brown 32 minutes in my update here at 4,300. That results in me getting about 49% ownership in my top 150 lineups. Denver, so many stats to fill up with all the guys out basically. And still, a team that's going to score 100 points at the worst case scenario, hopefully 105, 110 points, whatever their total's at. 105.5 is where they're at total wise now for the Denver Nuggets. But Bruce Brown is a guy that, can do a lot more than he does. He's settled in the league as like a pure, I wouldn't even say 3 and D guy, just the D and D guy. But he, at one point, was like a triple double threat when he was on Detroit. He can do some good stuff. So in this kind of spot where there is vacated usage abound, Bruce Brown, but Peyton Watson and Bruce Brown, really, both guys should contribute, but Bruce Brown at his price tag, there's a world where he could put up a triple-double. I don't know if he has it in his bag anymore, but, he's done it before. Peyton Watson, field was at 3% before all the Denver stuff got updated. I'm getting 57% now. Peyton Watson, you could also make the case that I'm a little bit low on him in my projections because he does put up about 26, 27% usage this year without Jokic and Murray on the court. Really starts to get his shot up. There's nobody else going to be competing with him. 4 shots, and he has been a player that's put up over 20 shots in a game recently. He played 40 minutes in that game, but he's putting up a lot of shots regularly. Now he can shoot as much as he wants. Peyton Watson has had the massive ceiling before. If he's a good player, this is the kind of game where you show it. Peyton Watson only producing 0.83 fantasy points per minute overall in the year. But he still has underlying stats. He produces the most points per 100 possessions on the Nuggets at 20.6. Out of the guys that are available for the Nuggets today. So he's your best scoring option on paper, even though, he's not a great scorer. Kobe White, no Josh Giddey today. Kobe White looks better as a result. 6K ownership or 6K salary for him. Only 21% ownership. I'm getting him at 29%. He's a guy that, sort of a balanced build, looks a little bit better. Again, with the value opening up, I think a Jalen Pickett will pop up a lot more. Bruce Brown might pop up a lot more as well at guard. But I think Kobe White, if you are going to pay up for a more reasonably priced guy who's not just going to be mega chalk, Kobe White should gain a good amount of opportunity for not having Josh Giddey on the court. Over the season so far, with Giddey off, Kobe White has put up 1.3 fantasy points a minute, only 310 possessions, but 33% usage, 30% assist rate, not shooting super well either, so it should be sustainable, 54% true shooting. Kobe White, one of those guys that pops in my data a lot because he and Giddey at one point looked like they were producing pretty similarly. That started to reclassify, I guess, accordingly, with Giddey being a better fantasy producer. But now with Giddey off the court, it's Kobe White's opportunity to get as many shots up as he wants. Denny Avdia on that late slate looks like a good value. Zeke Naji looks like a good value in this Denver mess. If he starts, he'll look even better. Right now, I assume he comes off the bench and plays a good amount of the minutes that Deron Holmes does not play. And Robert Williams, projected to be good value before with 45% ownership in Stokastic's data. That's going to change pretty meaningfully with the Denver value opening up. But Robert Williams at 3,800, playing backup center minutes. He's the kind of guy you get as a value on a slate where there isn't value, but now there is a lot of value. So Mukulishvili, unlikely to repeat his shellacking against the Hawks. He's not starting right now, so I would not go there. And shout out to our guy Parker here. Appreciate seeing him always. Shout out to all you guys watching live. And again, show some love. We're going to go to the game by game view, guys, now, but hit that like button and subscribe. I always appreciate seeing you guys here in the live chat. Of course, a lot more of you guys watch after the fact, and I appreciate that too. But we are here doing the work Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. Some days it's easy. I just show up. Stokastic gives me the minutes. I just plug in my stuff around it. Today, it was a little more work trying to figure things out for Denver, but that's the fun of NBA DFS. It's what I get joy out of here. Hopefully, it shines through and you guys watch the content. But it's chaos. That's definitely, if you are watching NFL normally on a Monday, this is fucking every day in the NBA, guys. So come along for the ride if you want. Monday to Friday here in 2 p.m. And of course, Stokastic, get all their data updated whenever it gets updated with the promo code SPLASH over at Stokastic. And cheap stuff, expensive stuff, weekly, monthly, all of it's 15% off with the promo code SPLASH. And last but not least, Discord. Join the channel here if you want to be part of the live chat, or if you want to join the Discord, it's $5 to join. If you want to see screens very much like this one I show you here, minus these proprietary Stokastic data, this is the version you get. It's updated throughout the night, $25 if you join down below. So check it out. But join one of the Squirt Squad tiers, does support the show pretty meaningfully, and you get, I think, really lovingly crafted projections, if nothing else. All right, New York here, 117 implied points. Detroit, 115.5. New York on this slate, a team where we just really don't have a lot that we're going to love because of the fact that there isn't really anybody out who matters. The price tag's caught up for not having Josh Hart at this point. But Jalen Brunson, 11% for the field. I'm getting 9. Cat, 11% for the field. I'm getting 14. These guys are decent to mix in for a tournament, but not really priority plays. Anunoby, about a 5% play. That might even come down further with the value opening up. Bridges, a 9% play. I got 4. There's nothing too meaningful here. Detroit, 115.5 implied points on their spot. So again, you have no Jalen Duren today. He's going to be out a week or so. You have no Tobias Harris still. So last game, we had a start for Isaiah Stewart and Paul Reed together. The assumption is that's what you're going to get again. If you don't get that, it's the first game of the slate, so you'll know before lock. But I would pivot off of Paul Reed pretty meaningfully if we knew that he was coming off the bench. But with Isaiah Stewart and Paul Reed playing together, there was a little bit of deference from Stewart to Paul Reed, who does more of the kind of rebounding, aggressive work, whereas Isaiah Stewart does more of your dirty work, defense, boxing out stuff. I think for Paul Reed, that should benefit him well, even though it's not great to play alongside another pretty aggressive rebounder if he wants to be an Isaiah Stewart. But Paul Reed, right now, 97% ownership expected. I got him at 96. He's the big stand here. Cade, if you get him, fine. Fields at 15%. Might come up a little bit more because of the Denver value, making it easier to afford him. Isaiah Stewart, certainly a pivot off of Paul Reed, still projects pretty well as a 5.2x value. And my projection at 28.6, a little bit higher than Stokastic's at 27.9. But I still think Paul Reed at that price tag, 3,800. And he's getting a 1.3 fantasy point per minute producer. You're talking about like elite level production. Isaiah Stewart's a good producer at 1 fantasy point per minute, but like, getting Paul Reed, if he's starting in again, he's just a different kind of player. Chicago, 112.5 implied points. Boston, 124 implied points here. Chicago, again, no Josh Giddey, no Jalen Smith as well. He's out for concussion. So you're getting Zach Collins also still out, I believe. So maybe more minutes for Vucevic, and that's probably reflecting right now. 32.6 minute projection from Stokastic. Fields at 13% ownership. I got 14. He'll be a guy that I'm sure gets paired with Paul Reed a decent amount, but probably not, in every lineup kind of situation. Trey Jones, borderline unplayable at this point. I would say, honestly, entirely unplayable. With Kobe White back in, Kobe White's probable to go. He'll absorb a lot of the production that Trey Jones really hasn't even done reliably the last few games. Kobe White fields at 21. I'm getting 29% ownership. My projection at 35.7, also appreciably higher than Stokastic's for Kobe White at 32.6. Matsas Buzelis, another guy who benefits from having Giddey off the court as well. I've got him at 20, Fields 12. The Bulls have been looking good with Josh Giddey and Kobe White off. Now you're still getting Giddey off, but getting Kobe White back on. So not quite as good of a situation, but I think if these guys all still have comparable amounts of upside. Could be an absurd winning score on MMEs if you get your scrubs right. And of course, the stars going to be, that's right, Steven. If you get the entire lineup right, they're going to score a lot of points. That's, you nailed it. You nailed it. Isaiah Stewart plays exactly like a dude named Beef Stew. That's true. That he does live up to the name. And he does occasionally punch people, though. He's clean now. He's not fighting Jose Alvarado. He's got that going for him. Boston, 124 implied points here. Jaylen Brown, massive real-life production over the weekend. He's been good all year long, putting up 1.37 fantasy points a minute, even better than Paul Reed. So he's got that going for him. But Jaylen Brown, small forward, you can afford him a lot more easily at this point with the value opening up. I think a lot of that's going to be at point guard, shooting guard, and center. So going to a guy like Jaylen Brown, even Jalen Johnson, same thing as well, going to make sense. But Jaylen Brown at a 10K salary, no issue getting there, even though it does feel a little point chasey after he just went absolutely nuts. Derek White, still a 5.1x value. Peyton Pritchard, same thing. These guys look okay. Certainly with Jaylen Brown's ownership, if you wanted to go to those guys as leverage against it, it's the way that works. If Jaylen Brown underperforms, those guys may overperform, but they all look okay. Jaylen Brown being the priority and easy to get to, though, definitely going to be the case. Atlanta 116 implied points here. Toronto 118.5. No Trae Young. Still do get Porzingis back in playing 11 minutes here. He's not even on the injury report, so he'll play his, I guess Stokastic thinks 20. Last time out, he played just under 18. But Jalen Johnson, 38% ownership. I'm getting him at 57. Field will be able to get there really easily as well because of all the value we have. But Jalen Johnson producing 1.42 fantasy sports minute. Counting for the matchup and no Trae Young today, I'd have him at 1.48. Toronto, 118.5 implied points here. No Jakob Poeltl still, but you got RJ Barrett back in playing about 30 minutes again, so he's kind of back to his normal role. Not sure if this ownership will hold as much for these guys, but I was getting Barnes at 26%, Field at 21 at 8,300. I like Barnes a good amount as a pivot point to Jalen Johnson. Brandon Ingram, okay as well. It's shooting guard, 7,600. Field's 27%. I'm only getting 12, but he looks fine to me. Quickly, not quite as high on today, but I have him about 0.5 fantasy points higher than Stokastic at 32.5. That said, only got 5% ownership in the Fields at 12. I just feel like the Raptors are one of those teams now where with Denver's situation, like they just won't be owned like this, but these guys are all okay plays. Like all of them look fine. It's a good total for Toronto at 118.5. Barrett at 31%. I don't think you need to do that. Murray Boyles, 24%. I don't think you really need to do that at this point. We have a lot better value. But, these guys are all okay plays. Pivot to higher own plays, probably. Jalen, Steven, of course, in the New England area, so he does pay attention to the Boston stuff more. The revenge night for missing out on player of the month. Sure. I mean, look, he's playing well. He's been playing well all year. I don't know if he deserved player of the month more than anybody else. Who won it? Jalen Johnson won it? I don't follow that stuff closely enough, but that makes sense. That does seem like a Jaylen Brown kind of thing to do. Phoenix, Stokastic had Grayson Allen and Mark Williams out. They got declared probable right before the show. I didn't update for that because it doesn't really matter. Phoenix, I wasn't getting with these guys out. With them in, I definitely won't get them. So see you later, Phoenix. Suck it. I don't know. The Suns not really an option that you want to get to. If you want to play Booker, sure, but doesn't look great for anybody there. Houston, 115 implied points here, 115.5. No Şengün today. Still, these guys are definitely priced for it already. Amin Thompson takes the biggest usage bump. He gets up to about 26% usage, but he doesn't really shoot well. Amin Thompson is one of those guys I struggle with because, like, he always looks good when one of the Rockets is out, but I feel like he never really has a meaningful ceiling at this point, or at least, any more of one than he would with those guys in. Like, if he gets there, it's from getting some extra steals and his shot actually falls. But Kevin Durant fields 17%. I got 11. Amin Thompson fields at 8. I got 12. The projections, again, I'm favoring Amin Thompson by 3 points relative to Stokastics. Tari Eason, 15% for me. Fields at 13. There's better value now. I really would love to get to Peyton Watson more than Tari Eason if I can, but Eason's a pivot to that. Reed Shepard, 5,300. He's in play as well. Again, a lot more opportunity for everybody because having no Şengün in, but Adams, Capella, now kind of priced where they need to be. If Adams were out and Capella started, maybe a little bit interesting, but still not as good as Paul Reed. Keep in mind, Kevin Durant has made 25 plus real life points in the last 25 games. Okay. It doesn't really matter for fantasy, though. But, what I would love to see from him is if Şengün were out and he really had more rebounds and assists. But he doesn't. With Şengün off the court, he averages 1.2 fantasy points per minute, 32% usage, 18% assist rate, which I think is pretty close to where he is normally. But he'll be able to get as many shots up as he wants. And, if he really hates Phoenix and wants to beat him up again, he can. Charlotte, 109.5 implied points. I got nothing here. Diabate is now probable. We do have Kalkbrenner and Plumlee still out, but Diabate now appropriately priced. Matchup versus OKC, not one we love normally anyway. The centers, it feels like if anybody's going to spike against OKC, it is, seemingly a center sometimes. Usually more of a stretch 5, but I feel like some of the big banger centers have gotten there before. And, OKC likely still no Hartenstein and no Jalen Williams, so maybe that's something, but hard to love Charlotte here. OKC on their side, I don't think their injury report's out yet, or at least it wasn't before the show. But the assumption is Hartenstein and Jalen Williams still out here. Nobody looks that good, but the Jalen Williams without a Y, 16% ownership for the field. I got 11. AJ Mitchell, 13% for the field. I got 11 there as well. With Jalen Pickett opening up as a value, you think that we're going to want to get there more than your AJ Mitchell types. But AJ Mitchell produced a steady 1.01 fan sports minute, now shooting above league average as well. He played 27 minutes last time out for OKC yesterday. So AJ Mitchell, one of those guys in this kind of spot against Charlotte, you could kill him off the bench if he does get enough minutes. Denver, we've talked enough about already. Oh, real fast. Parker saying, do I like Chet against the banged up Charlotte front court? I mean, if he's a guy you get to because you have all the money in the world to spend, great. But like projection wise, he just doesn't do a whole lot more with Hartenstein off the court. So Hartenstein off the court. So I don't really get to Chet too often, but yeah, if he gets a few blocks today, sure. Seems just like his full strength enough. I think you get to Chet Holmgren when it's like, oh, Jalen Williams is out or SGA is out and Holmgren somehow playing in that spot. To me, that's when you get to Chet. I think he's kind of appropriately priced, but can he hit a tournament ceiling? Sure. So Denver, 105.5 implied points as of before the show. It might come down a little bit further because the news is only out there for 45 minutes or so. OKC's report came out. Okay, so those two bigs are out and Caruso. Okay, so that'll move things around a little bit. Probably make AJ Mitchell look a little bit better too. Yeah, and Kason Wallace, I suppose. But Denver here, I feel like we've talked about enough, but the fact that they are a 9-man rotation today does mean that it's going to be a lot of minutes for guys that are underpriced for that situation. You want to know the starters here, but this is the last game on the main slate, so we won't know them all before lock. But Jalen Pickett, I assume, starts at point guard. Bruce Brown, I think, will start in one of those spots. Spencer Jones should keep starting. Peyton Watson should keep starting. Day'Ron Holmes should keep starting, but probably isn't guaranteed all the minutes in the world. Zeke Naji and Day'Ron Holmes, I think, are competing for the same allotment of minutes, but they are not guaranteed to play all 48, so you don't have to like force your way to those guys at center. But I do have Zeke Naji today at 0.92 fan sports minute, Holmes at 0.9. One of them can hit. Curtis Jones, he's been out of the rotation, so I don't think he could start here over Jalen Pickett. Maybe in some world that happens. My guess is you get a Pickett start, Curtis Jones backing him up. They probably overlap for a few minutes, which I tried to represent here, but not a lot. So I don't think Curtis Jones, super high upside. Hunter Tyson and Julian Strawther are the ones where like these guys could close if things break the right way. Hunter Tyson, I do think, is going to be one of your better producers. He's had a 17% rebound rate, which is higher than everybody else on the team that's available. Shooting terribly, though. 32% true shooting. Curtis Jones, 25. Strawther, 47. These guys haven't played a lot, so that's part of it. But, they're going to have to shoot well to play well and stay out there. But Hunter Tyson, small forward, power forward, 3K, gave him 22 minutes. He looks good to me. Julian Strawther, same thing, gave him 22 minutes at shooting guard, small forward. He looks good to me. There's too many stats left behind by the Nuggets with all the guys that are unavailable. So you should probably get at least 3 Nuggets in a lineup today, maybe 4. I don't think 5 would be optimal, but if you got 5, I don't think I would hate it, especially if it's like more of the unique pieces around it. It's just too many stats. Like Jokic alone being off opens up a ton of points, rebounds, assists. Then Murray, then Gordon, then Brown. It's like it's unreal. You're unfurling. Even Tim Hardaway Jr., who sucks. Like he leaves a lot of stats behind for guys that don't normally get stats. So play whatever Denver. My personal like bias though is definitely Pickett, Peyton Watson, and then I think Hunter Tyson I'll be getting no matter what. Philadelphia on their side. So Philly here, again, I wouldn't try to worry about who plays in a blowout kind of stuff because it's still a competitive Denver team. Like, they're still well coached. There's still guys playing for their roles in the NBA. They're probably going to lose by, 15 to 20 points, but like, it doesn't mean that, you get fourth quarter run or meaningful blowout run for guys that don't normally play. So I think what you're trying to target more is like giving a boost to Joel Embiid as I did today. I'm never a big Embiid fan, but he's been producing 1.35 fan sports minute. This kind of spot at home versus a Denver completely depleted, phoning it in team with no real big men. That's where Embiid should absolutely destroy them. He might get multiple big men in foul trouble tonight with Najee and Day'Ron Holmes. So for Embiid, gave him a little bit of boost. I'm cool getting to him today. Maxey still has upside as well. You're going against, basically G Leaguers for the most part on Denver. A few vets, but, a lot of G Leaguers. So for Maxey, he can carve him up if the opportunity's there, but it's a full strength lineup and he's pretty expensive. So keep that in mind. Edgecombe has played well lately. It's hard for me to get to these guys when they're all at full strength. You still only have Oubre and Watford out, which doesn't matter that much. Paul George has come back down to earth, playing at only a 1 fantasy point per minute pace on the year. But, he can hit a ceiling too. Fields at 22%, though. I only got 7. Quentin Grimes, not really on at this point. He just has been a great producer so far this year. He needs all the guys to be out like he got last year. But really for Philly, you're facing a shitty Denver team. Getting a bring back with all the value you'll play from Denver makes sense. If Denver somehow stays competitive, you get 4 quarters of run from Embiid. He might go for 70. So I think you want to get parts of Philly here, even though they don't project super well, besides Embiid, who I boosted the projection for. Late slate, you got Golden State and the Clippers. Here's the numbers. If you're playing FanDuel, look at it. Utah, Portland, nothing too noteworthy here. Utah getting back to full strength with Nurkic expected in. Portland still down Jeremy Grant, still down Jrue Holiday, still down Scoot. So for whatever reason, Portland is just not getting priced up all the way with those guys out. Obvious should be like 10K, 10.5 at this point, and he's not. Shaden Sharp, which should probably be 7,500. He's not. It's weird for Portland, but that's the case. And that's your slate, guys. I feel like I deserve to take a bow. You might disagree, but let's go to Stokastic. Let's see if they've updated. If not, okay, they did update projections at 223. All right, so we got something in here. They didn't update ownership, though. Something might have borked in that process, but we got a sim. So let's build this out, guys. And we're going to find out a lot of interesting things about Denver. Well, now you saw what my takes on Denver were. Now we'll see what Stokastic has for us. But again, one more ask, guys. Again, like a radio DJ, I got to keep hitting these breaks. Please make sure to hit that like. That's also a dated reference at this point. But hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. It goes a long way for me here. I'm just one guy showing you my gambling as best as I possibly can, but I do the work because I love it. And hopefully, I add some value to what you're doing in your process. Your Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. for every NBA slate. So join along here. Today, I will also be on the deeper dive on Stokastic with Josh Engelman. I didn't know that until I woke up this morning, but 5 p.m. I'll be on that today. So check it out. You can see here, Jalen Pickett now 88% exposure. So that's come up a good amount. All right, let's sim this out. We'll run through the plugs again. Stokastic updating here for you guys because they know you need it. So please join Stokastic too. Does support the show. Half the money you pay to them comes back to me. So get in there. Again, foolproof DFS is what I call Stokastic with the way they approach their sims. You're not going to break stuff unless you change a million things. And that's helpful for a lot of people out there, I think, for NBA, for NFL. And you can focus on the stuff that, that you enjoy, which a lot of people is just building, more unique lineups, all that, getting exposures right. So join down below. Promo code SPLASH over there gets you 15% off any weekly or monthly package. And last but not least, please do support the show. Join down below. It is a lot like PBS. If you want to see the show continue on, the support of viewers like you goes a long way. $5. Join the channel, get into the live chats. You also get Discord VIP access on there. And if you want to get my data updated throughout the night, join one of the Squirt Squad tiers and you will get that down below as well. But shout out to all 350 of you guys watching live between Twitter and YouTube. That's always cool to see. And I appreciate all you guys being here. All right, your top ROI lineup according to Stokastic data. So they didn't update ownership yet, but did update projections, which kind of comes out in the wash when they're sims. So we're not super worried about the ownership not being there. We got Bruce Brown in this top ROI lineup. Kobe White, Peyton Watson, Isaiah Stewart, Deron Holmes, Jalen Pickett, Jalen Johnson, and Joel Embiid. So a lot of guys we've talked about already here. You are fading Paul Reed in this one. You're getting that Denver value. Number 2, you got Cade Cunningham, Kobe White, Julian Strother makes this one some more of that Denver value. Jalen Johnson, Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Pickett, Peyton Watson, and Deron Holmes makes it again. Number 3, we have Jalen Pickett, Bruce Brown, RJ Barrett, Jalen Johnson, Nikola Vucevic, Julian Strother, Peyton Watson, Joel Embiid. Like PBS, we got a tote bag. Now, the tote bag is you get to ask me things. You get to talk to me in the Discord. And even if you're annoying, I'll still reply to you mostly kindly. That's the tote bag. It's the most I can give you. But it is similarly crafted by immigrant children. That's where my patience comes from. Number 4, we have Cade Cunningham, Bruce Brown, Jaylen Brown, Paul George, Paul Reed, Jalen Pickett, Peyton Watson, Deron Holmes. There's a lot of Deron Holmes. They must have given him pretty generous minutes. I didn't say it, Georgia. I didn't say that. I just said even if you are annoying, I'm still as kind as I could possibly be. That could apply. That could apply to Robert Griffin III. Could apply to anybody. Number 5, you have SGA, Jalen Pickett, Peyton Watson, Jalen Johnson, Paul Reed, Bruce Brown, Paul George, Deron Holmes. So you're getting a lot of similar stuff. Obviously, you're going to get a ton of Denver. Seemingly, you're getting 3 or 4 Denver in each lineup. But this is what you get with all the guys out. And just for the sake of completionism here, we'll go into the lineups in a moment. But let's just filter for Denver real fast. Let's see what they gave them. Team contains Den. All right, so they gave Peyton Watson 38. Oh, they gave Deron Holmes 36 fantasy points. How many minutes? Oh, no, actually, no, I'm sorry. I'm looking at minutes. I'm an idiot. They gave him 34 fantasy points in 36 minutes. They gave him a lot of minutes. Huh. All right. Jalen Pickett, 32 minutes for him and a decent 29 projection. I said it was going to be like 20, high 20s, 30. They gave Jalen Pickett 29. I have him a lot higher, though I did give him a few extra minutes than they did. Man, they really gave Duron Holmes a lot of minutes, so I don't think that's guaranteed, but Stokastic is really good at rotations. Spencer Jones, they gave 38 minutes to. That's different than what I had. Strother, they gave 22. That's actually dead even with what I gave. Najee, same thing. They gave Hunter Tyson and Curtis Jones less. But that's it. That's the rotation. Okay. Back to the ROIs. Peyton Watson, 102% ROI right now. Bruce Brown, 61%. Spencer Jones, all Denver guys up top here, 32%. Kobe White, my boy, 31%. Asar Thompson, 19. Vucevic, 8. SGA, 5. Dylan Brooks, 4. Cat, 2. Mitch, I think it's because the ownership didn't update. Like, it's looking a little bit higher ROI for some guys than it will. Because it doesn't know that Peyton Watson is like a really great play in ownership yet, but it knows it on the projections. That's what's going on right now in the Sims. Overall exposures here. Got Jalen Pickett, 89% exposure. Fields at 88. So not a big stand in favor of Jalen Pickett, but he is in almost every lineup. Paul Reed also down to 34 compared to the field 78. So the Denver values made Stokastic move off Paul Reed, which why not both is how I feel like my lineups are going to look. Duron Holmes, though, they really love Duron Holmes. That's the reason why. 85% exposure, Fields at 66. Steven says, I agree with you. Some of those sound aggressive. The Duron Holmes minutes, I think, are the most aggressive one because they didn't even play him a second quarter stint last game for Denver. And granted, like Zeke Najee played well, but like they could have brought him in for a few minutes. They had a few minutes where there wasn't a big man out there. So I just don't think they're like committed to Duron Holmes enough that I would trust it. But, you know, so again, Stokastic, I really do. Like I defer to minutes. I use their minutes for my projections. So I'm surprised by it. But they might update it again. Jalen Johnson, 61% exposure. Fields at 47. So despite having all the money to pay up, you are getting a lot of Jalen Johnson here. Julian Strother, 59% exposure. Fields 68. So Strother a little bit under the field, but he is still in more than half your lineups. And Bruce Brown, 49% exposure. And this ownership must have updated because it has Strother at 68. But it's giving you a lot of Bruce Brown, a lot of Peyton Watson. So 5 of your top 6 exposures here are Nuggets with Pickett, Holmes, Strother, Brown, and Peyton Watson. Your highest leverage guys, Nuggets are kind of a stay away. They can't be a stay away. I think if you were to fade the Nuggets today, like if you want to fade the Nuggets, play 2 Nuggets. Like that's the way to fade the Nuggets is you're still playing a few but consolidating production. There's too many stats left behind. That's just not the way to play fantasy, in my opinion. Because like there's rebounds, there's assists. They all normally go to 2-3 guys in Denver's rotation. And now not only are those 2-3 guys out, but the 3-4 guys behind them are out. So you got to think a fade of Denver is just to play less Denver. Reads 100% of my lineups, my personal picks. Love his value. Same with Hunter Tyson. I mean, Hunter Tyson, again, is a guess by me. Stokastic, it's not going to look as good minutes-wise, but I mean, I think Pickett should be the other one. It should be Reed and Pickett are your first things you build with. Your highest leverage plays right now in this kind of half-cock Stokastic data. We got Bruce Brown, 49% exposure. That's 39% leverage. Peyton Watson, 35% leverage at 41% exposure. Again, I think both these numbers are going to come up here for Bruce Brown and Peyton Watson. Kobe White, you're getting 19% leverage, only 10% ownership for the field in Stokastic sim here, and they want you to get 29% in their top 150. Duron Holmes, 18% leverage. You're getting him 85% of the top 150 lineups. The field 66. So Stokastic loves Duron Holmes here. Thinks he's a much better play than Paul Reed in this current run of data. And then Jalen Johnson, 14% leverage. You're getting 61%. Fields at 47 or so. Cat right behind him. Paul George behind him. Embiid behind him. Your biggest fades, Paul Reed, negative 44% leverage. So still in a third of Stokastic's top 150 lineups, but they're meaningfully underneath his ownership at 78%. Kevin Durant, negative 15% leverage, only 7% exposure in the fields at 22. Tyrese Maxey, negative 14% leverage, only 8% exposure in the fields at 22. Cade Cunningham, negative 11% leverage here, only 21% exposure with the field now at 32%. And then Scotty Barnes, 23% exposure, the field's at 33. I really don't know what to make of that. And you're getting positive leverage on your Nuggets. What are we doing at pay up? Again, you're fading Cade, but he's in 20%. You're playing more of SGA at 14%. You're playing more of Jalen Johnson at 61%. Jaylen Brown basically with the field at 23. Still fading Maxey. Maybe just a little more balanced builds in the 8K range because you're up on Embiid, up on Towns, low on Barnes. I don't know. I think it's going to move, but that is what it is right now. Just wanted to give you guys a look at it because it did update. Let's do a single lineup sim. I'll hand build it here. And again, guys, show some love. Hit that like button, subscribe. I won't pull up the graphics yet, but do it, please. He says through gritted teeth. You had positive leverage on your Nuggets on your bingo card. Sure. If DFS doesn't work, you can definitely be an auctioneer. Thanks for that. I think DFS is going fine, but I appreciate that. I would take auctioneer work. I've bandwidth. All right, your top players for me at point guard has to be Jalen Pickett at this point, and it helps that the sim will know that he's a good play. So let's put in Jalen Pickett here. Shooting guard would also be Jalen Pickett for me. Bruce Brown, Kobe White. Let's go Kobe White. Can we go Bruce Brown? Really wish Bruce Brown were a small forward. Small forward. Let's go Peyton Watson. We're just getting all of our nuggies out of the way here. Power forward. Feels like Jalen Johnson to me. Let's spend that money. Center. I like Embiid conceptually, but I still like Paul Reed as a value. So let's go Paul Reed first here. Got 6,700 left for guard, forward, and utility. I think one of these should be Bruce Brown. Point guard, shooting guard. Forward. Jaylen Brown. Tari Eason. I don't think Hunter Tyson's going to project well enough for them. Your Hunter Tyson are only given a 12-point projection. Let's put Embiid in at utility and see what we have left. 7K left at forward. This will get us Brandon Miller, Keel Alexander Walker, and Anunoby. All right, what if I play Hunter Tyson at forward? Minimum salary. Then we have too much. Then we have 12-7 left. That's not enough money spent. All right, well, I'm going to go Jaylen Brown then. Let's spend as much money as possible. Leave me 5,900 left. And I like Buzelis. Stokastic doesn't. They prefer Asar Thompson. But I like Buzelis. All right, so this is my players here in this lineup. Let me just set the settings. We got Jalen Pickett, Kobe White, Peyton Watson, Jalen Johnson, Paul Reed, Bruce Brown, Jaylen Brown, Matas Buzelis. You can tell the ownership is not updated because I got a 1,000% ROI here. I got a 1324 ROI. This is the highest ROI you'll ever see on stream. This lineup wins 4% of the time, a 19% top 10 rate. Again, the reason this has such a high ROI is because I'm putting in value that the data has not caught up with yet. So it doesn't yet know that Pickett's a good play. It doesn't yet know that Peyton Watson's a good play. It doesn't know that, those guys in particular, Bruce Brown is a really good play. So that's why, but we'll take it. That's a really high ROI. Yeah, I hit the jackpot. Screenshot, dupe away, guys. This is how it goes. But I'll give you guys my splash plays for the day. It should be pretty obvious after that lineup build. But one last ask, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Even if all you're going to do is fade everything I say, that means you got value out of the video. So please show some love. Again, I'm here doing the work Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. as best I can, updating my data. Even when things are breaking right before the show, I got in all the Denver rotations. It's a commitment here, and that is what we're trying to do every day. So show some love back. Hit that like button, subscribe. Help me keep fighting the YouTube demogorgons. Or algorithm, check out Stokastic too. 15% off the promo code SPLASH. Half the money you pay to them comes back to me. So support the show down below. Click that link and use the promo code SPLASH when you get over there. And last but not least, join the channel here. You want to be part of the live chat. If you want to also get into the Discord, $5 to join. If you want my data updated throughout the night, I would recommend the Squirt Squad tier. You can see the very matchup screens that I show you here on screen. But also you get my exportable projections if you are an advanced player and know what you're doing, because I cannot teach you that. But I can give you access to my projections that I use myself, and I'll be updating, I'm sure, sweatingly throughout the night. Splash plays for the day. Jalen Pickett. If not him, I mean, it should be him. Him, Paul Reed, those are your top two. I think those are still the guys you want to build lineups around, even though Paul Reed's going to be mega chalk. Pickett will be too, but those are just good chalk plays, good value options. Again, assuming Paul Reed and Pickett will start, which I presume they will. Besides them, Peyton Watson would be a splash play for me. Jalen Johnson, he's going to be really chalky anyway, but he is a splash play for me. I do like Hunter Tyson. I don't think he's a splash play, but I do think he's a guy at 3K minimum salary. Don't be totally shocked if he were to start, but I don't think he will. But if he plays off the bench, I want to get like 10% there at least, because if you give him enough minutes, I think he's going to produce well. And I think he's going to be your best fantasy producer that's left out of the second tier Nuggets. I do like Kobe White above the field. But really at this point, load up on Denver. Bruce Brown will be above the field for me. It's just a Denver situation. Put in whatever you like around that, personal choice and all that. But Paul Reed and Denver, it's all too good of a value at this point. And that is what it is. Again, I'll be on Stokastic later today at 5 p.m. Eastern, so check me out on there. I'll be with my good friend Josh Engelman. I think that's going to be a thing on Mondays moving forward whenever there is an NFL. So next week, probably back on NFL with Laffy, and then we'll be regularly just doing deeper dive on Mondays. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to gamble responsibly, guys, even though it is always money time here on this channel. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the channel at Splash Play Bets on YouTube, at Splash Play Pod on Twitter. You get my NBA and NFL content. If you want to see NFL stuff too, Thursday, my rookie QB preview coming up on the at Splash Play Pod channel. So that is started doing the data prep for that today. Going to be interesting. I think I am Team Mendoza this year, but we'll get there when we get there. But lots coming up here as always. The work continues on across the NBA, across the NFL, soon on this channel, across the MLB. So strap in, guys. But I'll see you guys again soon. Enjoy your days. Good luck. Catch me at 5. And if not, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye. Good luck. See you soon.